I've done a 3D model of what the extraterrestrial 3D map looked like. Now, this is just really crude with 2D images just to simulate what it looked like. So this was what the starting position looked like, and I could see Andromeda, the nearby galaxy, at a distance, and there was this thing over here to the left. Now, it might have actually been a little bit closer than, tiny little bit closer than, but I couldn't see this thing on the left. I couldn't see that from this distance. I didn't notice it at least. So I was above the Milky Way, and I could see this in the distance. Now, as I zoomed in to the to Andromeda, the hang on, let me do that again. I could see this thing appear to the left. It was blue, bluish grey. It was like a 3D cloud. It wasn't a flat disc like Triangulum looks like, and it didn't have a spiral. It was just a three-dimensional generic oval cloud. And so as I got closer to Andromeda, this got my attention, and it was like in the middle of nowhere. And instead of zooming into Andromeda, I zoomed in on this, and I looked around. I was able to see I've got a orbit control. It also had an orbit control on a fixed position, a certain distance away from the point of view. So you could orbit it and you could zoom in. That was the controls that I was able to do, zoom in and out. So I actually went inside this and through it and everything, and it was this 3D bluish cloud. And didn't exactly look like this, but it's the closest thing I could find on Google Images. So this was over to the left, and as you can see, it's closer. I've positioned it closer to the Milky Way than Andromeda. It was close to Andromeda on sideways measurement, but it was definitely closer, not further away as some say. And it didn't have a spiral. It didn't look like the pictures that we've got from Earth of Triangulum today. Now, I saw this thousands of years ago. And on top of that, the distance I was from Earth, I might have been even more light years away from Triangulum, so that I would have been seeing from a different perspective of time in the past. But still, that's not a lot of time for a spiral to form from such a shape. But the thing about Triangulum is that while it has a spiral, it doesn't have a supermassive black hole in the middle of it. It's just spiraling around it or in it, and it's not like a normal galaxy spiral. So it seems to be new, a recent phenomenon of it spiraling. So just maybe somehow it's begun spiraling over the last several thousand years or something. I don't know, but it definitely didn't have a spiral to it. But it was that faint, and it was bluish, like a bluish fog of cloud, that I couldn't see any kind of spiral, anything like that. And it wasn't a flat disk like they say it is. This was a three-dimensional bluish cloud. And there's one more thing I wanted to show. Two actually, but it's all the same one. So when I went back around the galaxy, and when I zoomed out like this, the galaxy, I could see, as you can see, you should be able to see, there's this faint fog that I've drawn here below the Milky Way. This long fog, and it was similar to the same bluish kind of haze fog, and it was a lot more fainter though, and I could just barely make it out. When I only noticed it when I zoomed out. And there was also one somewhere on top here, and it was even fainter. It was smaller and it was fainter, but there was this bigger, really big one below, really faint fog. Now, scattered around the Milky Way, there were a few bits and blobs of little specks of different things that were tiny and not really worth mentioning, but I didn't take note of them and their positions in them. There's a whole bunch of them, so I didn't really pay attention to them. But so it wasn't an exactly empty void. There was a bit of more than clusters of stars. It was more that these kind of uh, these fog shapes that were around, these really faint fogs. That was what I could see, mostly that was around. So there was no, it wasn't just completely empty between the two galaxies. There was stuff between them, but it was generally empty, and you could just barely see it as a fog. So when I zoomed in here, I zoomed to the left, and I got my attention on this, and that's when I talked to them about it, and they said that they sent a message here a long time ago and got no response, and they're not really interested in them, or they're interested in Andromeda, or this galaxy here. And as far as they were concerned, this was dead. So the only concern they had over this long distance communication was the message they were expecting to receive from this. Now, it kind of makes sense that the fact that they knew that this message was coming at a general time, that's why we went up into the communications area through a long tube to get there. They seemed to know that the time was coming that we're going to receive this message, and we went up there in advance early with a lot of time to spare. And in that time we went through past messages between the galaxies over a very long period of time, the slow progression of communication that happened, and we're just wasting time going through some details. And that's when they showed me the map and all this kind of stuff while we waited for the message. Now, it makes sense that there must have been some initial signal with some kind of countdown saying that this message is coming in, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, just or whatever, just to give whoever's receiving the message a warning in advance that the message is coming. So some kind of cue for the incoming message. That seemed to be the case. I didn't see anything direct about such a cue, but from the communication that happened between me and the others, it seemed to be the case that there was some kind of pre-message counting down or something, that because they were able to, they knew that this message was coming, and they weren't in a hurry, so there was some kind of long timer or something of it counting down for the message. And then while we're talking, the message started coming in, and then we listened to the message. And then after the message, so there must be a cue outwards as well, not just inwards, because at the end of the message, maybe a minute or two after the message ended, two other messages come from two other parties from Andromeda, which is what I said, how they're apparently they're at war with at least three sides, and two of those other sides contacted. They rode the end of the carrier signal of whatever signal that the main galactic authority of Andromeda sent, and they said that they didn't want to break contact while the governing authority of Andromeda, or the dominant one at least, wanted to break all contact. They didn't. They wanted to continue contact, and they said that this governing authority, or whatever you want to call them, doesn't represent us and our position on things, and we're at war with them, and they're all at war with each other, all three sides. But I've gone over the detail. I won't go too much details of this now. I've already gone over those details before, so you can watch the other videos on that now. So this is like a 3D image of kind of a bit crude, but it's kind of what it looked like from that golden, you see in the drawing I had on the other videos, of a rectangular kind of small screen on it with some controls on it, other buttons and everything, but there's controls on it. They wanted me to have a go of it, just to navigate around, to have a look around what we call the local group, what it's like, and get some orientation where things are. And so there was this faint cloud beneath there, and when I zoomed into it, it really kind of stood out a lot more. And it's the same with this thing that's probably triangulum over here, is I didn't notice it until I started getting close, and then I got my attention over to it and asked them about it. So all these clouds, they didn't really, you couldn't really see them from a distance away. You'd have to get a lot closer to them, be able to, and they'd start lighting up a bit more. So as I understand it, is what I was seeing. I wasn't seeing the same kind of light that we would see from just an overexposed photo. It seemed to be dimming the stars and lighting up the dust, because I was seeing a lot of cloudiness and stuff, a lot more than what we see in photos from the Hubble telescope and others from Earth and stuff. So it would look differently. I could see a lot more dust, and the brightness seemed to change as I would get close to objects. There's some kind of compensation to be able to see it. That's enough for now. I just wanted to do a 3D drawing just to show what it all looked like.